Hi, I'm Eddie Burke. I've been the bartender at the Hollywood Improv for 40 years, and this is my podcast, Eddie's Bar at the Improv. All right, guys, this is Eddie Burke, and this is Eddie's Bar at the Improv podcast, and I have such a special guest today. I guess we'll call you the Miami Sketch Machine, Jill-Michele Meleán.
Oye, claro, oye, sí. Miami Sketch Machine, okay.
There she is, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh,
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
You've been coming here to the Improv. I've known you for what? I don't know, 10, 15 minutes? No,
Thank you. Thanks for making me young. It's been, I think, almost 20 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's like time flies. And you haven't changed a bit.
Oh, please.
I mean,
I have. No, someone posted a picture the other day because I did that Haw Comedy Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, come see Jill-Michele Meleán. And I went, okay, wait. That's like a picture from 10 years ago. And I had like chola eyebrows, like the real skinny ones. And I was all like, And I'm like, yeah, no, I think I've changed for the better. Definitely.
Oh, you have.
Yeah.
You look great.
And Eddie, you like stopped in like time.
You should see the picture that somebody gave me at the party from 1981. You would not recognize me. It's a guy that worked here. He used to take the pictures for when they shot Evening at the Improv, and he got a picture of me back here working.
And it doesn't look like you? Because I've only known you like this.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
No, so. I actually even had a woman come in here once, and she goes, does Eddie still work here? And I said, I'm Eddie. And she goes, no. The Eddie I'm talking about had red hair and all that. I said, I'm Eddie. That was 30 years ago. And she goes like, no, it can't be you.
You know what I think is the funniest? Like, that, okay, it's to be said, like, you had a different hair color. I'd love to see that picture, by the way. But it's always like when someone goes, oh my God, I didn't recognize you. And it was seriously because I had my hair in a ponytail and had different lipstick color on. And I'm like, really? Is it?
Yeah. People just don't, they see you like, one way, and that's it. There is no change. But let's get to you.
Yes.
I want to talk about Jill-Michele. How'd you get started in this thing?
My gosh, I think I learned really early on that if you make people laugh, they leave you alone. So.
Oh, no wonder I'm so inundated. Oh my God.
Well, you know how it is. Like, people like, they want to nag on you or be negative or let's say even, just whatever. And if you make them laugh, all of a sudden it just like the whole energy shifts and and then you can walk away and be like, and they don't feel like you rejected them or you made them feel bad. And, even though like, you're like, wow, what a jerk. But.
Well, you're talking about guys.
Talking about guys, but also it started with my grandma. My grandma was really mean to me growing up. My nickname was the Bad Seed. Which, ironically, I got to meet the lady that played the Bad Seed in this club.
Are you serious?
She came out here and she was in the audience and I went, you don't understand. That was my nickname growing up, and she was like, "I'm sorry." But I think that's what made me a comic is because she was so mean to me that I started. And I have a bit about like dry humping someone's leg and they'll leave you alone because that's what happened. I started about when I was like 3 or 4 years old and I just started like dry humping her leg out of no reason. And then she was like, stop it. And then she would call me Jill and then she would go, Jill-Michele. And then she'd go, Jill-Michael. And I was like, why are you doing? I don't know why. But she would just try all these things to get me angry. And I just started humping her leg and then she starts laughing. And there was really powerful to go, she's laughing and she like released all that weird energy.
Yeah.
And my like 2 cents, but this is also the same grandmother that would sit me in front of the TV and we watch I Love Lucy and the Golden Girls and Tracy Ullman. So there was a connection there of comedy that I'm so incredibly grateful to her because I really feel like that's why I am a comic.
So was that kind of like because of her treatment? The other side treatment, kind of like your outlet.
It definitely was my outlet. Yeah. And
when did you feel like like this is what I have to do this?
Man, okay, I was 3. I was 3 years old, and I told my parents. And living in Miami at the time, there was no like studios there. There was no actors there. It was Hollywood, and that was it. And I told them I'm going to win an Oscar and be on SNL. I was 3, and they just looked at me like, "Yeah, you're going to get married and have kids. Like, what are you talking about?"
It's like, okay, sweetie.
Yeah, that's cute.
Yeah,
you know,
you go to bed now.
Yeah, you little hyper kid, just whatever, you know. And so I knew it, and I think growing up was a real, I guess, like, I want to say a push-pull for me, because I already knew what I wanted to do. And I was like, how do I get there? How do I do that? I would point at the television, like, how do I get on, what, I want to do that, I want to do that. And they were just, no one knew how in my family. And through that, I was just like self-discovery, of course, making people laugh. I'd come home and after watching a movie and then like say, sit my family down and be like, I'm going to just do the whole movie for you. And I would do all the voices and everything. And they would sit there for about an hour and a half and I would perform the whole movie. And sometimes I'd make things up, of course. But
No.
Never.
So God, where did you get your start? How did you get your first, like, not so much job, but when did you decide, like, I'm going to take this class or that class, or your first job, or did you not take classes? I don't know.
Oh, I totally did all the classes and everything. I have seizures, so my brain works really, really fast, and so I catch things really bad. So I have to do a million things. If I'm not a person that can just do one thing. I'm like an octopus, where I'm like, and that I thrive in that chaos. I thrive in it. And I realized I was always a performer, and I was at a private school, and they didn't allow, theater or anything like that. So we had monologues that were Bible verses. So I would do these competitions as Bible verses, and I would win them. And it was like, it felt so awesome. I was on stage, and I was like, Psalms 23. It was like ridiculous. So it was just more entertainment based. But I always knew comedy was where I wanted to go, because there's a joy of seeing people smile and laughing. It's infectious to me. It makes me feel alive. So as I got older in Miami, still at the time, and I won't tell my age, but you can tell by what I'm saying, there wasn't much going on. So I found a group that was like a sketch group, and I started performing with them. And then I got the Coconut Grove Playhouse, which was like the Broadway of Miami. Started performing there. And then Out of Sight, the movie with Jennifer Lopez, came into town with George Clooney, and Steven Soderbergh was the director, and they were looking for a body double. And of course, in Florida, it's a right-to-work state, so you have like 12 agents. Like, you don't have like one. And they called and they said, do you want to do like this body double stuff for her? And I was like, yeah. And I went to the set and became friends with everybody. And they're like, you're not SAG, you're not in the Screen Actors Guild? And I was like, no, it's Florida. And they're like, we're going to help you. So I'm incredibly grateful to them, because I was able to come out to Los Angeles, and they put me in a trailer for 3 days on the Universal lot.
Oh, wow. That's
and
great.
That's when I got my first taste of what real filmmaking was, and what, and I was like, I need to be here. So went back to Miami and prepared my family for the move.
I'm leaving, and Grandma, you ain't coming.
He's like, no.
No, you don't have to worry about me dry humping your leg anymore. That's it. It's what a great sort of start. Even body doubling Jennifer Lopez. Did you get to meet Clooney?
I did, and Clooney was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he was incredible, and his body double at the time is one that went around everywhere with him. So he knew him really, really well, and they were really good friends.
Was his name Tommy by any chance?
Yeah. You know him too?
Yeah. Well, George and I studied together.
Oh my
acting. 1983 to 4, whatever.
Wow.
And so I knew George before he was George, and he was like always the nicest guy. And Tommy, if it's the same Tommy,
I think so.
Tommy, yeah, because he used to hang out here before he got involved with George.
Wow.
And he was, just a really nice guy, and I know that he was working for George. So I assume he was
Gosh, are
picking
you
up.
still in touch with him? I'd love to get in touch with him.
No,
It's been so long. Yeah.
No, I would love to say, George, I need some work.
Right.
You know, stuff like that. But
hey, listen to my podcast. Maybe put your name on it.
That's right. Yeah, maybe we'll make it. What is it? Casamigos?
Yes.
Some tequila or something. We'll push your tequila, George.
Yes.
When you came to LA, when was your first time here at the Improv?
Oh my gosh, this is where I started, by the way. I mean, that's not always a good recommendation to comics to come out to LA and start at the world famous Improv. Yeah. That's so dumb. I know I made a lot of mistakes in front of a lot of great people. I'm like, oh my God.
You can't make mistakes.
Oh, geez. I look back sometimes. I'm like, it's painful. But I am where I am today because of the incredible group of people that I have met. But I came out here, and I think the first time I ever hit the Improv stage was probably, I want to say, like 2003. Mm-hmm. I had gotten my first, which is a really great origin story, coming back full circle from last week. I was in San Antonio. I was kind of just milling around on all these like little stages around town, and they were looking for Latino comics for the Latino Laugh Festival. And I was a baby comic. I probably had like 2 minutes of anything to laugh at. And I got it as like a fresh face, and I went, and that's what launched my career. Because from there I was, of course, I loved to drink at the time. You know, I was like one of those, hey, tequila, hey, I can do now. I'm like, yeah, no, that's okay.
You got to get up in the morning.
Yeah, I don't want to turn into a Spanish soap opera. It's okay. But at the time, there was no YouTube also. That was, there's no phones with the videos on it.
You didn't have to worry about the phones getting you a picture of Jill like...
Yeah, exactly. Now it's like, oh, God, you have to be careful everything. But, which maybe will make my career. I should just do that more.
Maybe, in this day and age, you don't know.
You don't know.
What was your feeling like the first time you got on stage here at the Improv? Was it like a special moment or like...
100%.
Yeah,
100%. Because you, as a comic, you grow up watching all your idols, and you know that their feet have graced the stage. And I believe Michael Richards was up that same night from Seinfeld, and there were a couple other people that were very significant that I knew, like I would watch growing up. So it was like this. It was a nervous excitement. It wasn't like I'm stepping on the stage and I'm freezing and I don't know what to do. It was more like, I'm here. I got here. When everyone said I couldn't do it and they didn't know how, I got here. And it's like, now how do I stay here? Like, it was the next thought.
Well, the first thing you do is start telling jokes.
yeah, that would help. And it was just, it felt like home. Mm-hmm. Just because I had been dreaming about it since a little girl. And to actually step foot on that stage was just, I'm home. I'm here.
And how did all of this lead to MADtv?
That was so the San Antonio that Latino Laugh Festival. I got my first gig. I was drinking tequila with this lady, and then I got a call, and it was from Nickelodeon, and they were like, hey, we want you to come in to interview for this writing gig. And I'm like, I'm not a writer. And they're like, do you write your own stand-up? And I went, yeah. And they're like, then you're a writer, come in. And I went in, I got the job, and I was writing on a live action show, and it gave me more confidence. And with that confidence, I was able to hit the stages harder. And I remember myself and Jeff Richards, we would tag team at the open mics. Like I remember the Laugh Factory, we'd stand in line homeless people, and he would get there like at 4 a.m, and then I'd be like, okay, and I'll tag you out at 8. And then he would go and sleep, and then we'd tag each other, and so we could stay in line, so we could get stage time. And so it gave me more confidence to hit the stage, because I was always a sketch performer, and more theater-based. And but I needed the stage fix. I needed that live performance.
Was your background originally acting, or?
Yes, but I was always a jokester, so it was...
Were you a class clown in school?
I was totally class clown. I was all of that stuff, and my joy was making people happy, so I knew I had the comedic timing. I always got cast in all the comedic plays, and I love doing character work. You know, that's why I like to joke around. I'm like, I'm the Gary Oldman of comedy because the minute you put a wig on me, I disappear. Like you don't know it's me. There's so many people like that are fans of MADtv, and they go, what were you on that show? And then I start telling them I was Britney Spears, Jennifer Lopez, Drew Barrymore. They're like, what? You know, because I lose myself, which I love, but it's a detriment also in this business because that catch-22 of like, well, I don't recognize you, you know. So,
but you could would that work out to your advantage if you went into an audition as a whole other person, a whole other character? I mean, I don't know.
You would think so, and I feel like because now the business has changed so much, and it's constantly changing how it's opened up to us being a little bit. They're more accepting of us writing and producing and making things happen ourselves. I'm able to write a little bit more of those characters that I can just lose myself in and not, you know, and still get that clout because I'm a producer on the project, you know, and still have my face value. But this town, I've realized it's a town that they need to recognize you, like your face. So that is important for me to get my face out there more. So like our last movie that Carlos and I did, because Carlos Alazraqui and I met at the Latino Laugh Festival, you know, almost 20 years ago. And then I played a sister on Reno 911, and then we toured together, and then we wrote this film together. And so HBO Max and Warner Brothers were the umbrella of this festival, now called the Ha Festival, and we were able to premiere our movie there, which was cool, like a full circle thing. Yeah.
You and Carlos, this is Carlos Alazraqui.
Yeah.
You and Carlos used to work together. Not used to. You still do. You work together a lot, and you met him originally. You said on Reno 911.
I met him originally at the festival, and then we weren't really close. I just was like, wow, this is the Taco Bell dog guy. You know, I was like,
exactly right. Yeah. Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's
how
cool.
was that?
Yeah. Like,
wait, let me. I just want to do one aside. I want you to hold up Jack. This is Jilly's dog. We need to give Jack some camera time.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Say hello, Jack. Can you
curses a lot. So I don't know
then just keep your mouth closed and just wave. Okay.
He's my love.
All right. That's enough camera time.
Yeah, can I have a kiss? Oh, we're gonna make out on camera. That's how we do it. My dad's always like, "Ay, that's so gross." I'm like, I made out with worse. Okay.
Oh, don't say that.
Yeah.
So with Carlos, because I love Carlos. I've known Carlos too for so long, and it's kind of fun for me watching people from, let's say, well, not so much from the beginning, but grow, become famous, do well and successful. And you and he just did a movie together.
Yes, we wrote and produced a movie called Witness Infection, which it's a comedy horror. We're both like weirdos, we love horror. And then of course, since we're comics, we can't help but write funny. And we were like, how about we mesh like Shaun of the Dead and Goodfellas together? And we did it successfully, and it has a lot of heart, the film. So right now it's, of course, we're done, and now it's like setting up meeting with distribution companies and all that. So it is a process, but we're hoping that it will be a quick process because it's such a great film and it's been well received. And there's a lot of comics in it. We have Brett Ernst is in it. We have Tara Strong, but she's more of a comedic actress. Erin Hayes, a comedic actress. Who else? We have Maurice LaMarche, which is the voice of Futurama. He's the robot. Gary Anthony Williams.
Well, that's the idea. You guys give each other work.
Totally.
Everybody, you know, that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the beast in really any business.
I think so. And I mean, look, I know you, and that's why I'm doing your podcast. So.
I'd have had you on anyway, Jilly.
Like, who's this broad? I'm not getting this one.
I saw you driving by in that car. I said, I don't know who she is, but I gotta have her on. I love that car. And now look at that dog looking out the window.
Yeah, that doggy in the window.
of the characters that you do you have a favorite?
For me personally, my all-time favorite is Drew Barrymore because I love her. Like, I can't wait to be her best friend one day. Like, that's who. So when I do, because growing up too, they always would laugh at me, and because the Firestarter, when that movie came out, I would really try, and I'll be there for like an hour trying to start a fire. I was like, my family was like, you are so weird. Like,
oh my God. What, dude, can you do Drew?
Yeah, I can do Drew. Like, it is so great to be at the Improv. I mean, this is where Jilly started. And now she's here, and her dog is here, who I love and adore.
Oh, I love that. That is so good. I watched a few of the MADTVs only because I knew you were on it, and because I don't watch much TV. I've got ADD, so I can't sit still very long. But you were also the first Latina, or the only
first and
Latina?
only Latina cast member, which is really cool to be able to say because it's canceled now. There'll never be another.
That's right.
It was, it's a weird thing because, like, since I wanted SNL when I was a little girl, when I got MADtv, I was like, this is good enough. I like this. Yeah. And I'm LA based. This is great. And it was boot camp. Like, people don't realize, because I had guest starred on some other shows, and they treat you like royalty when you're guest starring on a show. And I just thought every TV show was like that. And then you get to a show that you're like, oh, wait, what? I'm not supposed to laugh at other people's sketches. It was a competition to even get, you had to read. Oh, wow. We would read like 60 sketches and only 4 get picked. So everyone's like this, if it's not their sketch. And then when it's their sketch, they're like, oh my gosh, so great. And I went, oh. And I was so young, and meaning like I wasn't tainted by the business yet. I didn't realize, and I was just too loving, and I got hurt really, because I didn't realize that a lot of things. Now I know more of the business angle of it. I was like, I'm having fun. This is awesome. And you need more than that. Is
that more so on a show like MADtv or SNL, or what was it, In Living Color, where there's that kind of competition? Because when you're doing a theatrical like NCIS or whatever, I mean, you have a job, and you have a job to do, and it's very specific. Yeah. Whereas here, and everybody's in your corner.
Yes.
I remember myself doing a show years ago called She's the Sheriff, and that was Suzanne Summers. And before the show started, I was blown. The crew members went around knocking on the cast door. Right. A couple of them, have a good show, guys. Have a good. I'm like, what? Have a good. I mean, wait. Have a good. I mean, I had not seen that before, but it's
more camaraderie.
Yeah, it's contrary to what you experience with that when there's going to be a choice of 3 out of 64.
And not all the best sketches are picked. It is much seniority. It's so many politics. It's so, like, I remember we had a sketch that was hilarious, and it was about Scientology, and I was playing Penelope Cruz. And there was like another person was playing John Travolta, and then we had Kirstie Alley, and it was just like, it was the funniest sketch. And I think it was the time when Penelope Cruz and Tom Cruise were dating, so we were getting married, and we're on like in rehearsals, and we're getting all our wardrobe and everything, and they pulled the sketch, and we were like, what? And they're like, higher ups don't want it. And that was it, because there was probably someone in Scientology that was higher up and was like, no way. And I'm like, what happened? And that's the interesting thing that's happening right now with comedy, with the whole PC movement. You're just like, wait, when is that okay? Not okay to make fun of, but that is okay. Like, why is there like, we should make fun of everything. Like, everything should be across the board. We should never be, like, that's why I love Jojo Rabbit, that movie, so much, because you're like, yes, you are taking something that, if you said to somebody, we're going to make fun of Hitler, we're going to do like this, people be like, and we're going to have kids killing people. You're like, no, but they did it, and it was impactful. And I was like so happy that they were receptive to this film and to open up, because it's hard even as a comic right now. you know, you have people go, ugh, like a certain thing. You're like, what? Like,
well, I think that's so right, because even if I listen to a comic or listen to somebody on TV or what have you, it's like, you know, freedom of speech is exactly that.
Yeah.
It's freedom of speech. If you do not like it, get up and leave. You have that right too.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody says something that you feel is so offensive, get up and leave. It doesn't mean that you have to stop them from having their freedom. You know, we all have that right.
And I think when you walk into a comedy club, it should be a given. You know, it's just like, hey, you may not like everything, you know, but there's no reason to lash out at that comedian or write something negative about them online or do anything like that, because there's other people that really like that person. It's just not for you. Even me personally as a comic, I have friends. I personally don't like their comedy, but it doesn't mean I don't like them, and it's just not for me. I know other people really like it. It's just, that's not really my cup of tea. But
and it's not you trying to stop them from saying or doing their act or whatever, which people seem to get off on that sometimes. It's sort of like, oh, that's, you know, like they're talking against my political candidate or whatever.
Right.
You know, I'm gonna call 911 like they did with Ahmed.
That was ridiculous.
And that was in Miami, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you, Miamians. Gosh. They're so backwards over there, though. They're about like 5 years, 7 years behind us. Like anything. I remember when used to, like, this was like 5-7 years ago, when I would be like, can I get a soy latte? When I go to Miami, and they'd be like, ¿Qué es eso soy? I don't like girl crazy. Now it's more accepted, but
no ketchup. Do they have Starbucks down there?
Yeah, they do have Starbucks.
Then, maybe I'll drive through one day. The whole PC scene is crazy. So when you see guys like Chappelle and, you know, do his special and all that, and then they get all this shit for it, and you go like, you know what, guys? It's like, I know for me, if I don't like if I'm watching a TV performance,
change it.
Exactly. I watched, and I'll give you a perfect example. I think it was Eddie Griffin. This is a number of years ago. I'm watching his some special, and I just happened to be channel surfing, because that's what I do, and he's on there, and he's telling these jokes, and it's hilarious. And so I'm sitting there watching, and then in between, when he's got nothing to say, he's walking up and down the stage, you know, using yo motherfucker, blah blah blah, the N-word and all this stuff. And I go like, just tell your jokes, man, just tell your jokes. And then it's like, it got so carried away with that. Anyway, my point is, I could turn.
Yeah.
And I did, not because of his comedy. I thought he was very funny. It was because of all the pregnant pauses that had to be some stupid, you know, profanity or whatever. And again, my point is, you have that option of moving on.
There's so many options now. There's so many now. And then also, when you're at a comedy club, there's going to be another comic following. And, you know, now it's different if you paid to go see that person, then you know what you're getting, you know? So it's like, okay, but I understand if somebody's watching and there's 8 comics, a lot of this, Los Angeles is a showcase town, so there's a big lineup, and just hold tight. The next one you might like, you know, just relax.
Yeah, no, that's something here, because it is a showcase town. You got so much industry, and so much industry doesn't get it.
Right.
It's kind of like, well, prove it to me, not, you know, go ahead. You know,
it's
have
amazing
a good time.
how it's really mainly this town, and when you go outside of it, just even an hour outside, how people, the response is so different. Again, you know, everyone is just like, I want to laugh. Yeah, man, you know, this is great. And even when you go out of the state, it's like, wow, like people are hungry for. We get spoiled here in Los Angeles. I mean, you have like, you know, I remember when I was at the Laugh Factory, and Seinfeld was on the stage, and I was going up after him, and I was like, what? Like, like this is not good. And then when he came off the stage, and I went, hi, I'm Jill-Michele, and he goes, I'm Jerry. I'm like,
I know.
You know, and you're just like, I've got to follow that. Are you crazy? Like,
I thought about that the other day with comics. You know, you're going up after somebody that's so great, and I thought, like, if that was me, how in the world would I handle that? It's like, and I thought, like, I think I would probably do it a lot different than most people in the sense that I would embrace it.
Yeah.
I would go up and go like, God, that was my idol. That was whatever. That was fantastic. And, you know, and then kind of go into some jokes or whatever. I think a lot of guys get a little intimidated and because of who's who.
Or they try to think like, I'm going to come in strong. And you're like, no, you don't want to. And I think I got a taste of it right away because when I was testing for MADtv, Marty Short was in the room before me. Oh. And there was like tons of, and so he was in there having a great time with them, and he walks out and I'm like, what in the, what? And they're like, yeah, now you got to come in and do all your stuff. And I was like, oh my God. And they were all like, haha, like this. And so it was that thing of like, I got to let that go and I got to get over it and just be like, that was pretty awesome. And then get right into it because, you know.
How was that audition? What went on?
It is like doing a one-person show because at that point when you're at that last like level of like, do we want her or do we not want her? You are doing so many characters. And you have to set the character up, then do the character, set the character up. So you're doing multiple characters and then impressions. So you're in there for like 40 minutes. You know, it's no joke. And you're exhausted afterwards.
Yeah. Do you have them saying, you know, things to you like, you know, like, well, do this character or do that character?
That's all pre-approved with usually with the casting director. And again, I don't know nowadays, but back then you would sit, and I had Nicole Garcia, which we're still in touch, and it's so cool. But she sat with me and went over everything, like the protocol, how do you set it up, and then go into the character. And then they look at you and they nod, next one, and then you go set it up, go into the character. So you have that ideal already when you're going in and you know what to expect. Right. You know, there's so many people get spoiled with going like straight to producers, but there are times that when you're working with the casting director before, it gets you ready, so you can just nail it when you're in there.
I believe I know Nicole. Nicole's a manager now, right?
Yeah, she's a manager. Yeah,
she was always very supportive of actors going in.
But tough, very tough.
Well, you have to be because you do want the actor to do well.
Yes.
You know, and I think I've told this story before that I once had a casting director say to me, like, you know, you guys don't understand. It's not us against you.
Right.
We want you to do well. If you do not do well, we look terrible in front of the director and the producers. We may not get to work with them again.
Exactly.
Because it's like, why did you bring this person in? So,
100%. Yeah. And once you realize that it is a team as opposed to thinking like, I don't want to go for a pre-read. You're like, no, they're helping you. Most of the time they're helping you during those periods. And now we don't really go straight to producers anymore. It's like direct offers or your pre-read, they call it an audition. They don't even call it a pre-read anymore. Is like they've weeded out so many people already because it's, you would think with more channels there would be more opportunities, but it's more crap.
Yeah,
you know,
I was talking about this last night with somebody. I remember when cable first came into existence. Somebody told me about it. I wasn't around then. They always said the union there's going to be so much more work because there's going to be so many more channels. And as it turned out, there was a lot more work for the same people.
Yes.
You know, the same people is who they wanted. They were so afraid to take chances on new people. They would just go like, I don't know, call Jack, you know, or whatever. Right. It's the opportunities weren't as frequent as they made it sound.
Yeah, and then there's that level. And then there's the level of we're just going to hire whatever because we don't want to pay anybody. Right. There's that too. So you have a lot of that content on, and you notice that's why when you're going through, you know, Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, and you start to watch them, and you're like, what is this? Yeah. You know, and then you turn it off, and you're like, gosh.
Do you think that's also kind of like, I don't know, hindered the business in a sense because so many people are willing to basically work for nothing. It's like, I don't care, just give me the job. You don't have to pay me.
Absolutely. And what I think also hurt is that there used to be short lists for us like TV people, and then a lot of the A-list actors from film came over to television, so they took a lot of our guest stars, because that's what really fed us was these guest stars, because if you didn't book a series, at least we'd have like 2 or 3 guest stars, and they paid really well, and you'd make our insurance, and we would do all that, and now those are gone. So I believe, like, you know, unless you are proactive in creating, you are very rarely working. You know, you've got to like really get out there and just keep pumping out, and that's why I sit there and I go, is it still worth it? And I'm like, yeah, it is. You know, because you're tired, because I'm like, right now, like, I should not be doing this. I should be like, you know, like
it is still worth it because you've been doing it.
Yeah.
I question whether or not any of us would do it if we were starting today.
Yeah.
I remember, again, years ago, I used to look at the breakdowns all the time. All of a sudden, printed under all the guest star roles was, if your actor will not work for a guest star scale, do not submit. And that started either whatever scale was, let's say 10,000 for the show, and when they used to they could negotiate whatever.
Right.
And they stopped negotiating.
Yeah,
and even
like,
today,
boom.
They don't negotiate anymore. It's like,
flat
if
rates.
a TV series, it's 10,000 for this, it's 1,000 for a day player or whatever the rate is, and that's it.
Yeah. That's why I always push per diems. You got per diem? Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to pay for my coffee. Thank you.
When I started in 81, actors, you know, there was the SAG minimum for a day player, but then actors that were around a while had what was called their own day rate.
Yeah.
So they could, like, let's say if minimum was, I think, $360, $400 then, you know, they could still be getting $1,000 for that day.
Yeah.
You know, now that doesn't exist.
Now it's like, yeah, it's really...
Because people will work for nothing.
But here's the one cool thing is that I take with me is this, because I know even doing indie filmmaking on my own, you know, I always try to pay the actors more than what that ultra scale low budget is. Like, I always like, you know, definitely. But the cool thing is I remember there was a story that Jim Belushi was talking about with John Candy. And this is, you know, when filmmaking too, when they would get tons of money. And John Candy called Jim and he said, hey, can you do this film for me? And it wasn't much money. And Jim was like, and he's like, but man, just do me a favor. And he goes, because he's my friend and I care about him. He's like, I was like, all right, not expecting anything in return, just like, he's my friend, fine. Right. I'm not working right now, I'll totally do it. And he did it. And he said, 2 years later, John calls him and said, hey, remember that favor you did for me? He's like, guess what? He's like, I want to pay you like crazy amount of money, and we're going to go shoot in Italy for 3 months. And then they did some film in Italy. He goes, that man didn't only pay me back like for my time and what it was worth. He's like, but he gave me a house out of that. Like, it was, yes. And I was like, that is the coolest story. So it shows you that good people, like, you know, and we've been in this business so long now. We know when someone's good, and you go, I know they're going to have my back when they go to that next level. And that's what I try to do. Like, I used to be where I would only be able to pay somebody, you know, for my last film was like, I can only pay $125 for the ultra scale. Now I'm like, hey, guess what? I can double it. You know?
Can pay you $250. Yeah, here we go.
And the next one. So, yeah.
Changing it up a little bit. Do you think you've run into a lot of roadblocks because you're Latina? Has that affected you at all?
I've run into roadblocks because they don't know what I am. And I think because I don't look Latin enough, and now with this new Latinx thing, I'm very excited because they're finally embracing that there's different shades. And that we're more, you know, some have red hair, and some, you know, in Miami there were red hair and freckles, and, you know,
welcome
whatever.
to the melting pot.
Yes, hi. But again, I understand, like, casting directors, their job is on the line. You know, if they're asking for this Latin person, they want only people that really, really look Latin. And if you're like, I'm Latin, they're like, yeah, but that's not, like, I understand there's a fear in their eyes too, you know, because they think this is what Latin looks like. So, and then I wasn't white girl enough to be like, you know, like the Legally Blondes and like, you know, that kind of thing. So it was this weird, this strange in between. And because, you know, for me to be the quirky best friend, the way I look, it was like, well, she looks too much like the lead. So she'll steal focus from the lead. So we have to get the quirky, weird best friend that's maybe a little heavier or wears glasses or has shorter hair. You know, it's all based on casting and putting those chemistries together. So I feel like at that point, like I was getting lost in the cracks a lot. And that's why I was like, if I want to stay in this business, I got to start creating stuff because it was killing me. And I was like, I'm not ready to leave it.
Most people tell me the same thing. It's like if you really want to, unless you're fortunate enough to get a series or a movie or whatever, you have to create your own stuff. It's like whether it's you write and produce your own movie or anything like that, because the studios or Netflix or whoever the people are that are in control, they're really not creative enough to cast people like yourself. It's like, well, you know, can you imagine if your name was Gonzalez instead of Meleán?
It would help.
Yeah. I mean, at least they would go like, okay, she's Latina.
Right.
You know,
I wrote a joke because I went in, this was like a year ago, and the casting director goes, I just have to ask you something. Are you sure you're Latin? And I was like, yeah. And then I joked with her and I said, do you want me to channel my inner Sofia Vergara and talk like this? And would this be better? Can I say my Latin now like this? And she goes, oh my God, yes. Do that for producers.
Audition like that.
And I did. And this is where I was telling you earlier, I came back, like I couldn't go home and then come back because it was only like a couple hours, and it, you know, with traffic in LA, I was like, I'm just gonna stay here and get a Starbucks and then go back. But I always carry hoop earrings in my like ashtray thing. So I pull out the hoop earrings and my hair was pulled back. I took my hair down, put on the hoops, and then I put darker lipstick. That's all I did differently. And I go in, and she did a double take when I was signing in. And I went, Jill-Michele. And she goes, oh, my God, I didn't even recognize you. Oh, my God. And I was like, this is...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am
I Latin enough? Okay.
And that plays to the creativity of some wonderful casting directors who, like, you know, it's kind of like, all right, yeah, what do you want to do? You're Latina? No, you're not. But good, pretend. Unfortunately, well, most casting directors know their business.
Yes.
It's as long as I've been in it, they do.
Yeah.
But you run into a few that, like, you know, they have no idea, number one, what they're doing, number two, what the client wants or the producer wants.
There's some really great ones out there. Like Julie Ashton is awesome because she knows, like, my range so much. She'll like literally will tell me come in and do this, and so then I can just come in and nail it, you know. But they're and it's not to talk bad about the business by any means. It's just changed so much, and you have to keep rolling with those changes to stay in it. And there are times that I sit back and go, do I want to keep doing this? And you're like, okay, no, because there's like these little affirmations that keep happening. Because even with stand up, it's like, you know, I always felt like at this point, it should be easier. Like everything should just be easier. And it's not.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are some comics that hit it big and they have these awesome tours and stuff. But then there's a lot of great comics that we're still hanging out, you know, and we get shows here and there and it keeps us afloat. But they're doing the same struggle. And like when you guys have like at the Improv, we have the holiday parties, and like for your birthday, it reunites us all in one place, and we can share those stories with each other and inspire each other. Because there were a couple comics that I consider like I bow to them, and we were sharing stories, and they're like, I'm in the same place you are. And I'm like, what?
Because there's no process. There's there's no guarantee. It's not like you go to law school and you at least get a job.
Right.
In any art, there is no guarantee, especially in comedy, there is no process. I mean, everybody's process is different. There's no like whatever, let's say, Carlin did, you can't do.
Right.
In terms of getting ready, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that, and you watch, I think if it becomes easy, you're done.
I think so. And then I was talking to someone that was, because of course it's LA and you talk to psychic mediums.
No, we all don't do that.
Yes, and shamans. That's just how it goes.
I talk to Buddha.
Yes.
But it's all right.
But they were saying a creative person never settles. They're never settled. It's constantly, this internal struggle is what makes you creative. And they said, so when that fire is gone, you are no more.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, well, that fire is not going away. It's just getting bigger. So, and they're like, then that's great. So you learn to embrace that. What we think is conflict, you learn to embrace it because that causes us to focus more on what we want. And I'm like, absolutely. So they said, but if it causes you anxiety or pain, then you have to turn that into something that makes you feel good. So you can stay a product, because if not, you're going to start to detract it as opposed to attracting it. And that was a really cool realization over time. You know, intellectually we hear it and we're like, yeah, I got it. But when it finally resonates with you, you're like, okay with everything. Like, you just roll with the punches. You become more fluid.
You have to go through it, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to go through it,
And it's part of the passion, and you have to have the passion. If you're not passionate about what you're doing in an art, you're in the wrong place, in the wrong business, because I think all art, I don't care if you're an actor, you're a comedian, you're an artist, whatever. I mean, you've got to see whatever it is you see passionately, so that you can present it. I mean, especially when you think about your characters, you know, you have to have a passion, I would think, for each and every one of those characters.
Absolutely. Like there's a joy when you can even hear it, when you see it, even when you get the hair and makeup, but even hearing it when you hear playback and you kind of don't know it was you, you're like, that's so cool. Like, it is the coolest. Like, I remember I played Sarah Palin on this web series, and everyone's like, are you nervous? Because Tina Fey, like, does a great Sarah Palin. And I was like, you don't understand. Like, when I watched playback, I didn't see me anymore. So that was cool. Like, I'm happy with that. Like, I think Tina Fey would watch it and be like, she did a great job, you know? So it was like, I'm okay, you know? But that's thriving. That makes me, like, feel, ooh.
It's funny. You made me think of, like, years ago in a class I took. We did a showcase or what have you, and when we're finished and all, we had an invited audience, and I'm coming out, and my wife goes, "That wasn't you up there." To me, it was like the ultimate compliment. You know, it was like that was somebody else. You know? I said, "Well, that's what you try to do and perform," and people are like, you know, they kind of go like, they get a little scared. You know, it's like, how did you get there? You know, well, if I knew I could do it every time, I don't know exactly how I got there, but I did.
But you got there.
It's maybe you better ask George Clooney that. He gets there every time. The Latina part, though, you know, I talked to Cristela Alonso.
She's so great. She's like one of my favorites.
She's probably had a little bit more, I don't want to say roadblocks or whatever, but I don't know, issues at times with because she is Latina.
Well, I think the interesting thing is that I think at every level there are incredible stories, because let's say, for instance, like I look at Cristela and I think she's genius. Like, I love her writing, and she had a show. Like, you go, my gosh, you did it, whatever. And then you hear from her perspective, she's like, I had roadblocks. And you're like, what are you doing? You had roadblocks. You had a show. So it really is. We're always constantly struggling at any different level. Like we were talking about, we're never satisfied. And that's one thing that I'm finally embracing, is that it's okay to be here and be like, I want more, because that's the creative mind. Because the minute you like, I'm okay, then you're dead pretty much.
Right.
So, but it it's a certain type of personality. It's a creative person, because you talk to people that work a 9-to-5 job, that are engineers or whatever. They're like, I could never do what you do. Like that. I need to know when my vacations are. Right. I need to know.
You need structure. They need structure.
Exactly. And we're like, we're all over.
The other side too is that when you're in acting, when you're in comedy, when you get a show, and let's say it's your first show and you don't have a lot of money, my feeling is ride that out. Yeah. Make your money. I don't care how good or bad it is. Yeah. And this is a story I'm going to bring up because I'm conversating is what I call it. Mm-hmm. I'll be conversating with the person in a couple of weeks. But this person had a series in 1990, whatever the heck it was, and he comes in one night and he goes, Eddie, I'm going to quit. I said, what? He said, it is so bad. The writing's horrible. The ratings are horrible. I said, look, man, my opinion is don't do it. Yeah. You're going to get canceled because it is bad. I've watched it and it's got no ratings. Make the money. Yeah. For now. Yeah. And plus, as you said about you had a show, I said people aren't, if you go into a casting director, they're not going to say, oh, he was on that terrible show. No, they're going to say he had a show. He was on whatever the heck it was. Yeah. It's a very big thing in show business to say, wow, yeah, he had a show. I don't care how long ago it was.
Doesn't matter. I mean, my gosh, when people say to me like, okay, so what do you want me to say bringing you up? Do you want me to say MADtv? And I'm like, that was so long ago. And like, but people still know what that is. And I was like, okay, because you're just like, what am I going to tell them? These indie films that they've never seen before, You can't say those. They're like, who? What is this girl?
No, why not? You let, that's what they know you from. Right. And that's what you do. Too many times we fight, like, I don't constantly want to be known as this or that, or like,
I battled it when I was in it, exactly. I was like, I'm more than just Latin, and now I'm just like, I will put on an accent. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like, it just goes like that, I know. It's a never-ending battle.
It is a never-ending battle, and you have to find that peace within it of the journey, and I think it's an everyday kind of mindset, because it's easy to compare. I remember, I'll share this with you guys. You'll love this. It was between me and one other girl for a huge film, and the director made a pass. This was before the #MeToo movement, which I always say, where's the acknowledgement for the people that said no? Like, I'm like, because everyone, hello. But I said no, and then I had to stare at billboards of her. Sure. And it's heart-wrenching, and her career is soared. And I sit there and I go, how I wish I were a whore. I really wish.
Well, since that's interesting, because since you brought that up, it's like, I often wonder, like, whoever this person was, or even back talking to about the Weinstein things, had those people come out then, there would have been so many women not having to go through that. Yeah. But, people went ahead and got their careers. I'm not excusing what he did at all. I'm just kind of questioning the timing at times about all that, because look what you did. I mean, that was great. I think that's great. It's commendable, but you didn't get the job.
I didn't get the job, and it was a horrible place to be, but there wasn't even a second that I was going to say yes because of my upbringing, and I was like, what? Like, I was more offended that, how dare you? Like, this is, what is this? This is creepy, and I left not thinking it would affect my career. I did not. I thought, I didn't even think beyond going no. Right. Like, and then the fact that I had these repercussions afterwards, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it was just like, is that what I have to do?
Like, besides not getting the job, I mean.
Well, you don't get the job, but you also you don't get a lot of jobs because of it. You become into this category where she's not a pleaser. She's not a yes person. And I felt it. So when the #MeToo movement came out, I was very happy, because it has changed the course of, you don't feel that in a casting room anymore. And it wasn't even a casting room. They call it the casting couch. These are more like at that level, you're meeting them at the hotels. You know, they're flying in. And so you're in these positions where it is easy for that to happen.
Right.
So, but I'm thinking I'm meeting with this person and I'm so excited or whatever, but I didn't realize that was part of it. And then when you talk to, like, what's his name that wrote Feud, Murray, he also Two Broke Girls with Whitney Cummings. He was the other creator. I forgot his name, but
Two Broke Girls.
It was something Murray. I'm totally like I should know him because I seriously love him and adore him. But he was on the panel for Feud because he created Feud that on FX with about Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, and he said, no, these women were at the beck and call of the studios. So if a director came into town, they got to go out with him. And if a producer came, they got to go out with them.
Even at their level.
At that level was even more. The studio owned them.
Yeah.
So, and I went, and I listened to him because he said that, you know, he was talking to Betty Davis on her deathbed, and these are stories that he heard directly. And my gut just went, oh, because here I am as this little girl adoring Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. Like, my parents were like, you're crazy, you love Mommy Dearest, like, weirdo. And, like, all about Eve. I was like, ooh, this is so good. And here I wanted to be them. And little did I know that they were suffering constantly. They had to have this persona because their whole other life was out of control. So that's why they were so... these strong women, because that's all they had, because they were at the beck and call of the studios. So it was a really interesting thing to look at and go, wow, this is a different time. And I may not be that huge of a star like a Joan Crawford or Betty Davis, but I'm happy. I have my morals. Right. I can pay my rent. I live nicely. I can be creative. I can go tell some jokes, you know, and I meet awesome people. I can
say yes or no if I want to.
I can say yes or no if I want to.
It's up to me. And it's really sad that it's always been like that. And it's also been, again, I think I've told the story about Rock Hudson. When I was a kid in New York, in my building lived this acting professor at Columbia University. And one day he told us that he was being flown to wherever Rock Hudson had a house. Rock Hudson wants to meet you for this movie. And so he's all excited, and he's exactly a Rock Hudson type. He was tall, dark, whatever. And he goes and he flies there, and he said he'll probably be gone for a week or two because then they're going to shoot whatever. And he goes out there and he meets Rock Hudson, and he comes back 2 days later, and he and his wife visit us, and we go like, well, what happened? He said it wasn't for a role. Rock Hudson had seen me, and he wanted to sleep with me, you know. And it was the same thing there. And as he never got ahead as an actor after that either. That was just I don't want to say either. But it just that affected him too. It's been there forever. And it will continue to be there, unfortunately. But it's more out there now, and it's more prevalent in the sense that people know about it.
I think so, and I think there is a lot of major, beautiful changes happening. I even find more respect as a female producer. I'm getting more opportunities even to direct because I am a female and I'm Latin, so it's working in the benefit now. Behind the scenes,
female, Latina,
finally,
Latina, maybe white. I don't know.
Whatever, she fits into the ethnic category. So, but it's like, thank God for Botox.
Plus, you're very good, so that's the biggest key of all of it.
Well, the cool thing is that I've been around for so long, so I'm able to take all the good and bad and grab the good and hold on to the good and go forward with that and create the sets that are in a positive way. Even on our last film, there was one girl that was like, I go, who? Because everyone's hand selected, but in the wardrobe department, there was one girl that came in to assist, and she was sour, like so sour, like, and just negative and like just rude, and she was really rude to Carlos, and I'm like, okay, now you're rude to Carlos, and then she was rude to our director. So I pulled Carlos aside. I said, what's going on? He's like, God, that girl, oh, whatever. And I said, okay. And I went and I talked to the head of the department of costuming, and I was like, listen, you need to have a talk with her. And she goes, no, I know you. She's like, I know you, Jilly. She's gone. And I went, that is your call, but she's got to shape up if she's going to stay here. And the next day she was gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's the way you have to carry a set, because if one person, it's like a poison that can infect the set within like, and I was like, and that, to keep that, because, you know, especially in indie filmmaking, you're moving so fast and we don't have time because the money is going quickly.
Right.
That you have to have everyone on the same page.
Days to shoot.
Yeah, we have 15 days to shoot. We got a lot to do. So everybody is in this together, and as long as everyone's happy and fed, you know, I'm like, we have a great set. And appreciation. That's one thing I learned on Reno 911 set that was beautiful. Was every time after a take, they would run up to us and go, oh my God, that was so funny. That was so good. You are hilarious. Okay, keep what you said about this, this, and this, and then say whatever else you want. Okay, have fun. And they'd run away. And then as a creative person, that's like fuel. That's like, oh, okay. And the confidence level goes through the roof, and you feel honored to be there and feel, you know, grateful, like you feel like appreciated. But yeah, it was, there's other sets that are like, I'm sorry, you missed the word the. And you're just like, all right.
That's because that little script supervisor is like, you know, well, this is my job.
Right.
You have, what can people look for? What's the name of that independent movie that's coming out?
That's called Witness Infection, and you guys can find me all over social media at Jilly Online, Jilly Online. I really love the IG, so come over there to me.
JillyOnline.com. I want to give you something.
Ooh.
This is like our collector's item.
Fantastic.
So far, there's only 200 of them in existence. This is a T-shirt with the podcast. Is this wonderful?
That is awesome.
We may eventually sell these.
Yes.
But because you're Jilly Online.
Look, Jack wants to take a look at it. You want to
look, Jack.
Look, Jack.
Yeah, I know you're gonna probably dress. This is gonna be your bed, Jack. I know it's gonna be sitting in your. It has many uses. You can wear it. You can use it as a rag. You can use it as a little bed for Jack. It's okay, sweetie. It's soft. But anyway, thank you so much for being here.
Gosh,
this has been a pleasure.
Thank you.
I really, I thank you so much.
It's like this is our little family, always and forever.
And we always talk about talking, and here we go.
And here we go.
It's like doing our little conversating.
This one, come in and see him.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. Watch for this episode. It's great. And keep listening and keep watching and download the goddamn podcast already. And I want to thank Mike Carano, my partner in crime here. And we'll see you again next time. Peace.
I love it.